African countries include shown a wholesome appetite suppressant for China loans, but several experts now worry about how the mainland is gorging on obligation, and could quickly suffocate. The Entebbe-Kampala highway is yet thing of a visitor gravity for Ugandans, almost 3 months following it outdoor. The 51-kilometer, 31 mi, 4-persons lane railway how connects the nation's equity to the Entebbe World Aeroport was constructed by a China business with a $476 pound 366 meter, lending of the China Exim Banking. It has cut which was a painful couple-hour travel via several of Africa's lowest traffic in a picturesque 45-min driving in the East African nationalities equity. Uganda has undertaken $3 billion of China loans as portion of a broad tendency how Kampala-based political economist Ramadhan Gubi telephone call its unmatched readiness to benefit absolute equity to Africa. The China loans go as lot African countries are one day once again in risk of defaulting on their debts more than rather than a 10 years following lot had their eminent loans spelled away. At low 40% of cheap income countries in the area are each in obligation stress or at top hazard, the World Cash Foundation alerted in April. Chad, Eritrea, Mozambique, Congo Republic, Southward Sudan and Zimbabwe were deliberate to be in obligation stress at the end of 2017. Zambia and Ethiopia were downgraded to top hazard of obligation stress. In 2017, the again signed importance of China contracted projects in Africa recorded. Norm Banking's China political economist Jeremy Stevens wrote in a mention. Yet, in spite of significant left infrastructure facilities deficiency on the mainland, down there is a anxiety how African countries' obligation service capacity will quickly dilute, he says. The China pattern has lot top profile defenders on the mainland, consisting the chief of the African Growth Banking, Asian Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, a ex-Nigerian farming secretary. China is now the solitary greatest duplex financer of infrastructure facilities in Africa, superior the Asian Development Bank, the Europe Committee, the Europe Invest Banking, the World Financial Corporate, the Planet Banking and the Team of 8, GRAM8, countries combination. The cash's effect is noticeable all above Africa, of brilliant new airports and roads as so as ports and top-rise buildings how are as well creation lot needed jobs. In reality, a McKinsey and Business Analyze found how the sum of loans Beijing had done to Africa had tripled with 2012, consisting an oversized $19 billion to Angola one in 2015 and 2016. It quoted Angola and Zambia as imbalance partners in China in Africa. In Angola's instance, the government has given oil to China in exchanging for China funding and building of main infrastructure facilities projects, but marketplace managed individual invest by China firms has been bounded compared in some African countries, the company told. Africa has done considerable new reached in trading, invest and funding institutional arrangement in China, says Ghanaian invest analysis Michael Kata. Down there are several really gain deals African nations include close out of the common burdensome facility related historic in making industry in West countries, says Mr. Kata, whose consultative company Confidence counsels world clients. Yet down there is a feeling in that China is apparently the greater victor, just since it has the top leverage in largest talks. McKinsey projects how rental income for China firms in Africa could hit $40 billion by 2025. Though Mr. Adesina coordinated how, this question how I include seen is the laterality of force in the talks of the transactions, wherever you are in fact giver yours mountain rights off fair since you wish to construct a freeway thou are just behavior in one nation, how are you certainly how you are receive the top transactions. China does not include a Overseas Pervert Practices Act, love the joint state, or such law in some West countries how criminalize bribes pay across the sea in exchanging for contracts. Although Nobel Award-winning political economist Joseph Stiglitz telephone call the West critique of China's job in Africa acid grapes, he admits how down there are corrupt practices concerns. Mr. Gubi as well says down there are more concerns about the ecological effects of China investment, especially taking into account the impoverished, poor, pervert regulating institution infrastructure facilities in Africa. In 2015, the China-Africa study lead at the Johns Hopkins High School of Progressive World Teaching voiced alarm signal bells how African countries might be incapable to return China loans proper to oscillating product prices and descending absorbent power. We discover how China loans are not now a main donor to obligation stress in Africa, they now say in a new press briefing document front of the 7th Message Board on China-Africa Collaboration Summit Conference the 1 week in Beijing. China has the love stake of African obligation but the countries are loan of lot some source at international level so it is not solitary-handedly to accuse for debt. While the summit conference recent welcomed, in Johannesburg, China pledged $35 billion in concessive overseas aid loans amongst some letter of credit channel to Africa. Which has not superior is which norm banking telephone call a considerable trading deficiency in China with 2014. It says just 5 African countries include a trading excess in China. Mr. Gabi wants China to assist Africa construct institution power to draw an army sustainable investment with avenues love specific economical zones and industry parks to beach up the mainland's exportable focused manufacture. So distant, China has just pay lip facility to such a length term supporting how would disaccustom African countries off their dependence on the Asiatic tigress. Djibouti recent monthly startup the at first stage of the China-built complementary trading area exhibited as Africa's greatest but it is seen as fair else chunk of the puzzle surprise as China revives old trading means of communication in its waste and way lead that targets 60 countries. Ugandans might delight steaming over the marshy Nambajire Way axle on their new highway, but down there are actual fears how they could end up drowning in China obligation.